In 1951, at the young age of just 6 years old, Luis Armando Albino vanished without a trace from a park in Oakland, California. On the day he was abducted, Luis had been playing at a park near his home on Brush Street with his 10-year-old brother, Roger. While the boys enjoyed their afternoon, they were approached by a woman who spoke to the young boy in his familiar home language of Spanish. Described as being in her 30s, the woman was kind and engaged the siblings in conversation. The woman made young Luis the promise that she would buy him candy if he went with her. The 6-year-old, innocent and naive, followed the woman with his 10-year-old brother Roger, trailing them for a short distance before deciding to return home and alert an adult about the unsettling interaction. Unfortunately, that would be the last time anyone who knew or loved him ever saw Luis as a child. After Roger reported his brother's disappearance, Oakland police initiated a search. However, they were skeptical of Roger's account and theorized that Luis may have accidentally wandered into the bay and drowned. The search expanded to include all of San Francisco Bay and several other nearby bodies of water, yet no trace of Luis was found. Despite the exhaustive search efforts by Oakland police, local Army soldiers, the Coast Guard, and volunteers, no trace of the 6-year-old could be found. For decades, Luis's disappearance remained an agonizing mystery. His mother, Antonia Albino, clung to the belief that her son was alive. Even as the years turned to decades, her relentless determination kept the case alive. She regularly visited the police's Missing Persons Bureau, daily at first, then weekly, then monthly, and eventually annually, always hoping for updates. Luis's photograph remained a constant presence in relatives' homes, a symbol of their unshaken faith. Even after Antonia's passing in 2005, her hope for her son's return continued to inspire family members. 15 years after the abduction, the family intensified their search efforts, believing that Luis, now 21, might have eventually appeared in military service records. They conducted multiple trips to Puerto Rico, suspecting that he may have been taken there. Yet despite their best efforts, these searches yielded no answers. It wasn't until 2020 that the first major breakthrough emerged. Alita Alquin, Luis's niece, took an online DNA test, expecting little more than a fun exploration of her ancestry. Instead, she discovered that she was a 22% match to a man living on the East Coast. While initial attempts to contact him went unanswered, the discovery reignited her determination to possibly find her uncle. In early 2024, Alita resumed her search, this time reviewing old newspaper articles and digging through microfilm at the Oakland Public Library. Her research brought her back to the day Luis disappeared, and her growing conviction that he was still out there led her to approach the Oakland police with her findings. Authorities took her lead seriously, reopening the case with support from the FBI and the Department of Justice. Together, the agencies searched through public records and collected DNA samples from Luis's living siblings. The FBI was able to assist in overcoming the interstate barrier through their ability to access resources across state lines. Through the collection of his siblings' DNA, police were able to conclusively say that the 6-year-old who disappeared in Oakland, California all those years ago was now an older man living on the East Coast. Initially, investigators were unsuccessful in their multiple attempts to locate Luis in person, but eventually, they were able to get FBI special agents dispatched to speak with him directly at his residence. The agents were eventually able to interview Luis in person and take a DNA sample from him. This confirmed that he was indeed the boy who had been snatched from the park 73 years earlier. On June 20, 2024, investigators were able to deliver the life-changing news to Luis's family. Luis Armando Albino had been found. Days after the news of the positive match, Luis returned to California to reunite with his family in an emotional meeting that included his brother Roger. After decades of separation, the brothers were finally given space to reflect on the events of that fateful day in 1951. What had seemed like an innocent encounter had turned into a nightmare for both. Alita Alquin told the media, We didn't start crying until after the investigators left. I grabbed my mom's hands and said, "We found him." Eventually, all involved were able to have a family reunion over 70 years in the making. The niece who was credited with finding her uncle was able to get a kiss on the cheek from Luis, and he told her, "Thank you for finding me." Luis has only some memory of the abduction and his cross-country trip, but he's never gotten answers from the adults in his life. During the family reunion, Luis was finally able to reunite with his brother Roger, who had been with him on that fateful February day. Luis's niece recalls the two brothers grabbed each other and had a really tight, long hug. The brothers then sat and finally discussed the kidnapping. They also talked about their military services and more. Luis's life had continued on after his abduction. Brought up on the East Coast, Luis believed that the couple who raised him were his biological parents. He went on to serve 2 tours in Vietnam as a Marine, and later built a career as a firefighter. By the time of his reunion with his birth family, he was a father and grandfather, having lived an entirely separate life from the one stolen from him. In July of 2024, Luis returned to California once more, this time for a 3-week visit, spending precious time with his family before his brother Roger's ultimate passing in August. Reflecting on the long journey that brought Luis back to them, his niece urged other families facing similar situations to hold on to hope. She said, quote, "Don't give up. While the missing persons case has officially been resolved, the FBI continues to investigate the kidnapping. The identity of the woman who abducted Luis and the circumstances surrounding her motives remain unknown. Luis himself has chosen to stay out of the public eye, allowing his story to serve as a testament to the enduring power of determination and love, without his continued narration." After more than 70 years, the Albino family's perseverance finally brought them the closure they had long sought. Kayla Unban was a bright and adventurous child growing up in Illinois. She loved spending time outdoors, playing with friends, and exploring new places. Described as being kind-hearted and full of energy, she frequently enjoyed bike rides, drawing, and reading fantasy books. Kayla's father, Ryan S. Kirka, cherished his time with her, fostering a loving and stable home environment. After Ryan and Kayla's mother, Heather, had separated, there were several legal disputes involving attorneys, and eventually, Ryan was granted full custody of their daughter. This decision was based on the fact that in court, he was able to prove that Heather was not the best choice for Kayla's upbringing. Under the court's orders, Kayla was allowed to visit her mother only on specific days and times. One of these visits took place on July 5, 2017, when Kayla was just 9 years old. On that day, everything changed. Kayla had been dropped off to visit with her mother on July 4th, per the court-ordered visitation agreement. She was supposed to be returned to her father on July 5th, but the exchange never happened. Witnesses later reported seeing Heather packing up her belongings and loading them onto the roof of her car. Family members assumed that she was simply going on a camping trip in Wisconsin. However, days turned into weeks, and concerns grew when Heather deactivated her social media accounts and turned off her phone. With no way to contact Heather, Kayla's father, Ryan, immediately filed a missing persons report. Authorities launched a nationwide search, and the Kane County State's Attorney's Office charged Heather with child abduction, a Class 4 felony. South Elgin police pursued multiple leads, but Heather and Kayla remained missing. To aid in the search, Ryan set up a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for a private investigator, but it fell short of its $110,000 goal, collecting just over $2,500. In 2020, 3 years after her disappearance, a missing persons agency released an age-progressed image showing what Kayla might look like currently. The case briefly regained attention, making headlines for a few weeks. But just as before, with no new leads, public interest faded. For years, the case remained unsolved. But in November of 2022, a Netflix series called Unsolved Mysteries aired an episode titled Abducted by a Parent, featuring Kayla's story. The episode included the age-progressed image, and this exposure reignited public interest, leading to increased tips and online engagement. A Facebook page called Bringing Kayla Home continued to share updates, keeping her case alive. On May 13, 2023, a routine evening at Westgate Regional Shopping Center in Asheville, North Carolina, led to a breakthrough. An employee at Plato's Closet, an upscale consignment shop, recognized Kayla's mother, Heather, from the Netflix episode and immediately contacted authorities. Asheville police responded swiftly, confirming the identities of both Heather and Kayla. Heather was arrested on the spot. Kayla, now 15 years old, was placed under the care of North Carolina Social Services, while authorities arranged for her return to Illinois. The Kane County State's Attorney's Office publicly thanked the store employee for their vigilance, emphasizing the importance of media coverage and the subsequent public assistance it can bring in cases like these. Heather, now 40 years old, was charged formally with child abduction and extradited to Illinois. After initially declining to waive extradition, she posted a $25,000 bond. On May 16th, Heather appeared before Judge Julia Yetter. On May 18th, she was released on bond but required to wear an electronic monitoring device. Additionally, Ryan's dad obtained an order of protection prohibiting Heather from being within 1,000 feet of his residence or leaving Illinois without court permission. Heather's legal proceedings remain ongoing. In a November 2023 hearing, a judge ordered Heather to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Her next status hearing was scheduled for December 1st, but there's been no update since. If convicted, she faces 1 to 3 years in prison, though probation is a possibility. For Ryan, Kayla's safe return marked the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new one, rebuilding their relationship after years apart. In a heartfelt statement issued through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Ryan expressed his overwhelming relief, saying, quote, "I'm overjoyed that Kayla is home safe. I want to thank the South Elgin Police Department, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and all the law enforcement agencies who assisted with her case." He also acknowledged the role of social media and the Bringing Kayla Home Facebook community, which played an instrumental role in keeping her story alive. He said, quote, "We ask for privacy as we get to know each other again and navigate this new beginning." Kayla's case is a stark reminder of the challenges surrounding family abductions. According to the NCMEC, 5% of the 30,000 cases reported in 2020 involved parental abductions, with over 60% of Amber Alerts tied to such cases. Unlike in stranger abductions, these cases are often more difficult to resolve because the abductor is familiar with the child's habits and can therefore evade detection for years. With the preservation of her case in the media and the help of a diligent public eye, Kayla, unlike many kidnapping victims, was brought home, traumatized but alive. However, mental health experts say that Kayla will continue to face the psychological implications of her mother's actions for years or decades to come.